I came back early from my trip only to see flashing police lights bouncing off the lake water, and the HOA president screaming at the top of her lungs that I was a trespasser in my own cabin. Minutes later, her handyman showed up carrying a crowbar. By the end of it, she wasn't calling the shots anymore. She was in handcuffs. Act T. The Spark. My name's Emily Harris. I'm in my early 40s, a widow, and for most of my adult life, this cabin by the lake has been my sanctuary. My husband and I built memories here: bonfires, fishing trips, birthdays. After he passed, the place became even more sacred to me, but that didn't stop our HOA from circling like vultures. When Karen Thompson took over as president, everything changed. Karen is the type of woman who doesn't just enforce rules, she invents them. The kind who treats a homeowners association like it's her personal kingdom. She wore her title like a crown, strutting through the neighborhood with a clipboard as if it was a scepter. She'd already made comments to me, Emily, you'd make a nice profit if you sold this place. The developer has his eye on lakeside properties. Wouldn't it be easier to just move into town? I smiled, told her, no thanks. This old place is home. I should have known she wasn't the type to take no for an answer. I had been away for a short hiking trip in the Rockies 5 days. But on day 3, I decided to cut it short. A storm was coming, and something in my gut just told me to get back. When I pulled into my driveway, I was greeted not with the quiet comfort of home, but with red and blue lights flashing against the water. 2 officers were standing in my yard, and Karen, standing there with her perfect blonde bob and bright blazer, pointing at me like she was calling down judgment from above. She doesn't belong here, she yelled. She's trespassing on private HOA property. I froze. I mean, what did you even say to that? This was my cabin, my name on the deed, my mortgage, my blood, sweat, and memories in those walls. I fumbled out my paperwork, hands shaking, while Karen kept up her tirade. One officer took the documents, checked, and finally said the words that should have been obvious. Ma'am, this cabin is hers. You need to step back. Karen's face tightened, but she didn't back down. And then, like a scene from a bad movie, her handyman, Rick Barnes, came striding around the corner carrying a crowbar. The cabin doorframe had fresh marks on it. They hadn't just been circling. They'd tried to break in. That's when the first seed of fear planted itself in my chest. Act T. Escalation and the breaking point. The next few days, things only got darker. Anonymous notes appeared on my porch. You should have sold. Last chance. Someone hurled a rock through my cabin window in the middle of the night. And every time I thought it couldn't get worse, it did. One evening, I heard footsteps near the boathouse. By the time I got outside, I caught sight of 2 men in masks bolting into the woods. My neighbor Mike, a retired firefighter, happened to be outside and managed to fend one off with the handle of an axe. It was chaos. That night, sitting in the cabin with broken glass on the floor, I actually thought, maybe they're right. Maybe I should sell. Maybe this place, with all its memories, isn't worth the constant fear. I remember staring at a picture of my husband on the mantel, whispering, am I just being stubborn? Am I risking too much? That was my lowest point. But the universe has a way of dropping lifelines when you need them. Mike came over with a USB drive. You'll want to see this, he said. His outdoor cameras had caught Rick, Karen's handyman, creeping into my boathouse carrying a gas can. The video was clear as day, and that wasn't all. When the cops caught Rick later that night, they found text messages linking payments straight back to HOA maintenance funds. It wasn't just harassment anymore, it was conspiracy. Still, Karen didn't stop. She showed up at my porch herself one afternoon, leaning in close, voice low enough only I could hear. Sell, or you can't blame me for what comes next. What she didn't realize, my security cameras had captured every second of it. That was the shift. That was when fear stopped being louder than me. Act T3, the showdown. The breaking point came on a stormy night. Rain tapping on the roof, wind howling through the trees, and then headlights. A truck rolled up. Out spilled 3, maybe 4 figures in masks. One carried a metal pipe. Another had a red gas can. I dialed 911 with one hand, grabbed a flashlight with the other. Mike was already outside, axe handle in hand, blocking the path to the cabin. Back off, he shouted. One of them lunged, The sound of metal clanging against wood echoed across the lake. Another tried to kick in the back door. My flashlight beam caught their eyes. Just as sirens wailed in the distance, the floodlights snapped on. Triggered by my motion sensors, the entire yard lit up like a stage, and every single camera I'd installed was rolling. The intruders froze, realizing the game was over. The sheriff's SUVs barreled down the drive, tires splashing mud, officers pouring out with shouts of, "Hands up!" Two were tackled in the grass. One dropped the gas can and bolted, only to be caught at the tree line. And the one thing they all had in common, they named Karen, said she paid them, said she promised them favors, money, protection. She was the mastermind. The next morning, Sheriff Daniels himself showed up with a warrant. Karen was escorted out of her manicured house, wrists in cuffs, neighbors peeking from their porches. The so-called queen of the HOA dragged off in broad daylight, screaming that it was all lies, but the evidence was ironclad. The bank transfers, the security footage, her own voice on tape, threatening me. Her reign ended right there, on that muddy street by the lake. Closing line. Fear thrives in silence, but proof will always speak louder.